Welcome back to Film Snob HQ. We're still on the road to Avengers Doomsday, and we're almost at the end of the first era of Marvel flicks. I'm going to break all of these up into eras. So there's the pre-MCU era, which is everything from 1986's Howard the Duck, all the way up until 2007's Fantastic Four: The Rise of the Silver Surfer. Era number 2 is when the MCU begins, and that's going to be a series of MCU films, Sony films, and Fox films, and that will be all of Era 2 and Era 3. And then Era 4 onwards will be when Disney has taken over Fox, and then suddenly it's the Disney, Fox, MCU, and the Sony ones. So we talked about quite a few films. We have looked at some Spider-Man movies, some X-Men movies, some Fantastic Four movies, some Howard the Duck, some Blade, a bunch of everything. We finished our Blade trilogy a few episodes ago, and today marks the end of another trilogy, the X-Men trilogy with X-Men The Last Stand. Hopefully the photo will fit there. This was always envisioned as a trilogy, the idea being they would wrap up their mutant versus human storyline by the end of number 3, which we do see in this film. They would, however, go on to try some spin-offs. They did X-Men Origins Wolverine and end up doing a whole Wolverine trilogy. However, after Wolverine Origins, they did get cold feet and they cancelled the Magneto origin film, which was integrated in First Class later. We're going to get really weird with timelines as the X-Men franchise continues on. However, this one is a lot of fun. I know a lot of people didn't like this one when it came out. It was a bit of a step down from X2, which I understand. X2 is a damn near perfect movie. However, I really enjoyed this one. Most of the previous cast has returned, with the exception of Nightcrawler. However, we do see Nightcrawler in the prequel trilogy later, and we're going to see him in Doomsday as well. New to this cast, we have got Vinnie Jones as the Juggernaut. We've got Elliot Page as Kitty Pryde. We have Kelsey Grammer as Hank McCoy Beast, and we've got Ben Foster as Angel, who we previously saw in The Punisher. The rest of the cast, as I mentioned, has returned, and this film pretty much begins with the idea that there's a cure for the mutant gene. Humans have been experimenting. They found a mutant whose power is to neutralize, I should say, the X gene. And now they want to weaponize it and turn all the mutants back into humans, which of course Magneto doesn't take too well, and he launches a crusade against the X-Men and anyone who will stand in his way. We lose Cyclops very early on, and that's probably the biggest critique of this film I have. I would have liked to have seen more of him. We also don't get a ton of Angel. He's in the opening scene, and it kind of makes you feel like he's going to be an ongoing character in the story. He does dip in and out, but he's not a huge part of it. The absolute standout of this film to me is probably Kelsey Grammer as Beast. He's really inhabits the role. The voice is perfect. It's a great casting, and thankfully we've seen him again in the MCU a few years back, and he's going to be in Doomsday as well. We get more of Halle Berry, which I really like. We get to see Iceman fight Pyro. There's some really great fight scenes, a lot of visual effects to keep it fun. And yeah, maybe it's not as, substance-filled as X2, but it's definitely stylish, and there's some really cool things to look at. And it's a really, really fun X-Men film and a great way to cap up the franchise. So, of the 4 new mutants, do I think we're going to see them in Doomsday and Secret War? Because I've already talked about the others in the previous films. Kelsey Grammer Beast, we know, is coming back. He's been talking about shooting some scenes. Ben Foster Angel, I don't know. I would like him to come back. I'd like to get a bit more of him in the MCU, but I don't know whether they consider him a big enough character to return, especially because then they did Archangel, but hopefully we'll see him. Elliot Page as Kitty Pryde, I would be really surprised. I don't think they have any interest in reprising that role, and they seem to not be acting as much at the moment. So I would like to see Elliot Page return, but I just don't know if that's going to happen. And who was the other person we added? I just said it. Isn't this embarrassing? You'd think I'd pause the recording, but I'm not going to pause the recording. We're going to work this out together. Angel. Oh, Vinnie Jones as Juggernaut. I would really hope they bring him in. He did decline to return in Deadpool and Wolverine, stating that the costume was uncomfortable. However, I do feel like the MCU is very good at doing comic accurate costumes, so there's probably a way for him to have a more comfortable fit. I hope we see him, especially because he's Charles' half-brother. We do want to see some more of that family in there, but we'll see. Next up is Ghost Rider.